at the personal level, I think I've been part of the initiative to develop some of the processes that we in ASEAN have set up until today. I remember when we in Brunei first acceded to ASEAN, the task was, I thought, a bit simpler. ASEAN was just a one-issue organization. We were dealing with the Cambodian problem. And then after a while, we have to deal with the refugee problems. But I think by 1992, at the end of the Singapore summit, and coinciding with the end of the Cold War, we are starting to immerse ourselves in other initiatives, focusing more on economic development. And since then, we have, and at the same time, we are also focusing our efforts on doing things together through, for example, the establishment of the ASEAN Regional Forum in 1995, and then in 2003, we are dealing with the question of the declaration on ASEAN community. And I think from then on, the speed was quite rapid with the setting up of the ASEAN Summit and then the establishment of the ASEAN Charter. What I'm trying to say here is, in fact, the speed at which ASEAN is trying to help assist and manage things, and the speed at which issues and problems are emerging, multiplying at a very, fast speed. And this is, I think, where the question of, centrality, rightly come in. And I was just wondering, when the forefathers of ASEAN set up ASEAN in Bangkok in '67, if they had ever thought of what should we think about in terms of charting ASEAN future in the next 50 years. And here today, we're trying to, to do that. But the question is, how do we proceed? And I think the question of centrality is really an essence or distillation of things that ASEAN so far has done. And I think it is thinking if the principle of centrality could be something which will really bring ASEAN together in terms of purpose, in terms of unity. I just want to, quickly talk a bit on the principle of centrality. I think our chairman and I think my colleagues also have talked about it very eloquently. But I want to stress here that the principle of centrality signifies a form of policy direction. It is mentioned in the Charter under the purpose and principle of the Charter. And I think the clarity is there. It has to do with how we manage external relations while keeping the region, open and transparent and inclusive. And I think under the role of the chairman also, the Charter has stipulated that it is the responsibility of the chairman to ensure that ASEAN remains central in its endeavor. So I think we need not really quibble in terms of what it is. And this is really a firm policy direction, although I think our problem really is how it would affect or impact ASEAN and how we can really achieve the kind of centrality that we desire. So I think, in short, ASEAN clearly indicated that centrality is something that it would advocate as strategy and approach. And maintaining centrality is even a matter of necessity now, perhaps prerequisite in moving into the future. This can only mean, firstly, pursuing ideas, action, and initiatives required in proactively responding to the multifaceted challenges of community building. And I think this is amply highlighted by colleagues earlier on the need that we have to be strong internally first in order to be able to project the kind of centrality required beyond ASEAN. And secondly, ASEAN must assume the responsibility of leadership in an effective manner by strengthening its position as the hub of regional processes and offering a pragmatic alternative in the management of wider regional affairs through the frameworks it has set up. Let us begin by recognizing that ASEAN is not a perfect regional organization, but it has not stood still either. And I think this is very important. ASEAN in all its endeavors, whether it succeed or whether it stumble, it is the sense of duty and responsibility that it will carry on nevertheless. So I think the destiny of ASEAN is a matter of how comprehensively it planned the journey. So in assessing factors that could maintain or affect centrality, it is important to set our priority. First, I want to emphasize on the need to further build on the positive contribution of ASEAN to the region, particularly the political and economic gains it has accumulated so far. When our leaders agreed to the vision of ASEAN community, in fact, we are shifting gear in the way this association would consolidate peace, stability, and prosperity, thus charting the path to the future. On the other hand, ASEAN must succeed in realizing the economic growth and the dynamism in order to be taken into account. I think we talk about this in daily session, and the impression I have is this is the hallmark of maybe the second 50 years of, or the next 50 years of ASEAN. And thirdly, deepening engagement with external partners is so critical that it should even be pushed to the point of becoming indispensable to both ASEAN and the wider region. So, as a result, maintaining centrality of ASEAN now requires more than just the mere reiteration of the principle and diplomatic concurrence of external partners in the official documents of ASEAN. I think, again, I come back to the morning session. The kind of concerns, the kind of frustration which have been amplified, some of the things that we need to think of in order to ensure that we maintain the centrality. In the light of this, I wish to highlight some of the urgent challenges. I think the bigger challenge my colleagues have highlighted earlier has been described as the state of major power relation, especially US, China, Japan, India, and others, as they directly affect ASEAN interests and concerns, specifically the extent to which the prospect of the United States' commitment to Asia and China's strategic ambition will be supportive of ASEAN efforts to contribute and influence the process of building a stable and constructive regional relation, which is open, transparent, and inclusive. I think there has been a lot of commentaries by experts about the rise of China. I need not dwell on it, but I think the concern that I personally have is we need to deal with China. This is the biggest thing in terms of its economic weight, in terms of its power. There are serious things to consider. And there's no doubt that China has a strong ambition, if not desire, to have a major say in how the region will develop, as they have direct interest. So I think listening to experts on China and some of the pronouncement made by the leadership, it's a mixture of both encouraging and concerning. It's initiatives in the infrastructure bank, for example, the OBOR, connectivity, things like that are very much welcome. But at the same time, when they talk about redefining international relation, redefine approaches to the concept of security for promotion of an international order which is fair and equitable. I think that that needs to be clarified. My next point is, above all those concerns in major power relations, especially the rise of China, is the opportunity that ASEAN has developed, and there is a niche that ASEAN can further enhance. This is by strengthening strengthening of ties of external relation, especially enhancing the +1 dialogue relation with China, US, India, Japan, and making sure that the ASEAN Regional Forum really works and serves its purpose. And the +3 process, as well as the Asia Summit. If we have this in place and effective, it will secure the partners' commitment in this framework. So in the sense, ASEAN has truly become truly a region that is most connected in an open and inclusive multilateral architecture. Despite criticism about their potential and effectiveness, this dense web of linkages and processes have characterized the outlook of the region in practically all areas of interest. How the regional architecture may look like in future is a matter of speculation. The colors are still being mixed. Various configuration of structures and forums are shaping and influencing development in the region. To a large extent, ASEAN has somehow cast the initial die due to its achievement and long substantive efforts exerted in promoting peace, stability, and prosperity in the region. Therefore, when ASEAN reiterates the phrase peace, stability, and prosperity in an open and inclusive environment, it actually value adds and offers an alternative outlook to the construction of regional architecture in the post-Cold War period. This is further reinforced by ASEAN sets of traits, norms, and diplomatic practice, which have become a standard reference in dealing with regional issues. There are also a number of other areas of concern, both real and perception, perhaps, regarding ASEAN capability to deal with its future development. Despite the critical position it has assumed in the regional affairs so far, the history of its performance in tackling difficult issues has been of mixed results, or at least the assessment is still ongoing. One could list out the issues it has addressed satisfactorily. Similarly, there has also been shortcoming even as we speak. ASEAN has been forewarned that the future is fraught with major challenges in the form of anti-globalization sentiments, need to maintain open and free trade arrangement, natural disasters, climate change, terrorism and extremism, and the pursuit of the fourth technological revolution. And I think it has been also mentioned earlier that ASEAN has been further urged to address many of its apparent weaknesses, institutional efficiencies, and Keng Yong is talking whether we need to assist the Secretariat with funding, or do we need to decentralize the centers of the ASEAN Secretariat. And then there's also the question of the overbearing effect of the ASEAN way. These two have, its detractors and supporters. Loose convergence on adherence to agreed norms and values, and most importantly, the issue of unity and coherence among its own members. These are imminent challenges, not just to the principle of centrality, but also to its relevance. But ASEAN has not given up. It has continued to persevere. For a small, weak, and developing countries, these qualities have, in fact, served as great strength in the bigger regional arrangement, where trust is in short supply. Nationalistic history continues to impede constructive relation, and major power relations are characterized by political animosity and economic cooperation at the same time. Under these circumstances, the region deserves a degree of predictability in its overall relation. It requires platform for working together and embracing agreed norms and values to build trust and confidence, and above all, mutual friendship with a stake in each other's security and prosperity. And I think ASEAN has offered all this to its members and partners. The next point I want to mention is the question of the success of our economic integration. I think this has taken a whole session, and I need not, elaborate on it further. Simply to emphasize that this is something we need to succeed in. And I think someone mentioned the, the study by the ADB, which states that ASEAN economies are doing well. It reflects growth and dynamism. We are poised to become the fifth largest economy by 2030, 500 million middle class. And I think these are important signals, and especially that we've been informed by 2030, our economies will be able to surpass UK or France. And I think this is something that will really help to ensure opposition when you're talking about, centrality. I think, Chairman, I stop there. Thank you very much.